pretty girls. Ha-da-da-da-da-da. Yo, guys, what's good? It's your boy Dewyze on Blaze. You know the name, you know the face, you know the time, you know the place. And today we back again with a brand new react. Matter of fact, guys, Spotify's monthly listeners is actually insignificant according to pthvtg. Alright, it's your boy. Like, comment, and subscribe to him and to me. You get me? Blood. Let's go.
So, check it right. With the music landscape advancing at a rapid pace worldwide, we've seen those advancements take shape in the form of DSPs, with companies like Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube being at the forefront of how we consume music today. But this video isn't about how we consume music from these platforms, but rather how we interpret the data that we're given by them when it comes to how we track a certain artist's progress or growth. Now, one particular platform that gives a lot of insight to a user in terms of data that we can track is Spotify, and it has 3 metrics that it makes available to us, which are the streams an artist accumulates. There's also Spotify monthly listeners and Spotify followers.
But I will say, I feel like also Spotify is the biggest like gray area platform. There's just so much gray area with Spotify. There's so much stipulations and like, oh no, these are botted streams and these don't count as actual streams, and if you get streams from this country it doesn't count toward, like, there's just too many flipping, things I don't like about Spotify, bro.
Which is related to fan retention. Now, with hip-hop being a competitive sport, fans often love to brag about their favorite artist, and one metric that is often used in those debates is Spotify's monthly listeners, where the count is often cited as a measure of an artist's popularity, but this metric has several limitations that can make it less significant or even misleading in certain contexts. So for a better understanding, let's break this down. Now, monthly listeners are defined as unique users who have played an artist's music at least once within a rolling 28-day period. This means if someone listens to multiple songs by an artist repeatedly within that time frame, they still count as only one monthly listener. This can lead to a discrepancy between the number of streams and monthly listeners, skewing perceptions of an artist's actual engagement or fan base size.
Exactly.
Now, one factor that plays a role in debunking the importance of monthly listeners is the impact of playlists. Now, monthly listeners...
And that's the one thing I wanted to say, is that monthly listeners can just come from playlists. You don't even actually have to have actual fans. If you have one song on like multiple playlists getting hundreds and thousands of spins, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are getting or you have a huge fan base or you have this much monthly listeners. That just means this month this is how many people listened, not necessarily that's your actual fan base. Nah.
Can be significantly inflated by playlist placements, especially if an artist's song is featured in popular or large editorial playlists. These listeners might not represent dedicated fans but rather casual listeners who are passing by. This can lead to high monthly listener counts without corresponding engagement or loyalty to the artist's broader catalog. I mean, for instance, we have Usman Mane, right, who at one point had over 700,000 monthly listeners and currently still has over 600,000.
I don't know what it is about a vape, but smoking a vape in a video, like in a music video, it just doesn't give that cool factor. I don't know why. A vape just looks too, I don't know, bro. It's just, I don't know. But this looks like a cool vape though. This is one of the cooler ones though.
Now, I think it's safe to say that 2024 was a successful year for him, considering that his debut album Days Before Maud performed beyond our expectations. I mean, with records like Check and Unfollowed,
I don't think it performed beyond our expectations. I think we expected it to perform well. Nobody thought that Usman Mane's album wasn't going to do well. Everybody thought it was going to do well, and it did well.
The rapper received quite a few placements on certain playlists, and I guess some credit needs to go to his label since he is signed to Gamma. And I say that because labels have significant influence over playlist curators, especially on platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and others where they have established relationships.
Again, that just shows you that your monthly listeners and stuff, it doesn't even count, because if your label's the one getting on the playlist and what does it mean you actually have those fans, or are those people just fans of the moment? of what's the hottest right now. And then when the rotation happens again and you're not in the hottest, do the fans just like whoever else the labels push? You know what I mean? So it's really skewed, bro.
This influence can lead to easier placements on high-profile, influential, or editorial playlists. Posts on X have suggested that a high percentage of songs on official playlists come from artists signed to major labels, indicating a bias or strategic partnership. Now, another factor that we do need to consider is Spotify's algorithm might also play or push songs to users, which can count towards monthly listeners without indicating genuine interest in that artist. This practice can inflate the numbers, giving a false impression of an artist's reach or popularity. Another factor that influences the metric is artists being featured on
Look at those hands standing patiently by Cassper Nasty C.
Popular tracks. Through collaboration, artists can see a surge in monthly listeners due to the success of those specific tracks, even if their individual work doesn't garner similar attention. This can lead to misleading representation of an artist's standalone popularity. For instance, we have Saudi, who was featured on the Black Panther album, which was curated by TDE. After his feature on the track X alongside Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, and 2 Chainz, Saudi experienced a notable boost in his visibility and listenership. This was his first Billboard entry, which contributed to his international recognition. Saudi himself acknowledged that the feature reintroduced him to the world and validated his unique style of rap, suggesting an increase in his audience. This is corroborated by a report from SA Hip Hop Mag, noting that Saudi became the first South African rapper to reach 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify Africa. Now, even though Saudi still has over 600,000 monthly listeners, does that mean he's one of the biggest hip-hop acts in the country?
No, it doesn't.
While going based off certain conversations, I would say not, but that doesn't take away from his talent. Now, monthly listeners don't equate to engagement. An artist might have millions of listeners, but if these listeners aren't converting to followers or aren't streaming the artist's other tracks, the numbers become less meaningful. Listener to follow ratios often reveal that many monthly listeners do not translate into a dedicated fan base. Now, what is a follower? While Spotify followers are users who have chosen to follow an artist on Spotify, and these users express a higher level of interest than those who merely listen to the artist's music occasionally. This action signifies a level of fandom where the user wants to stay updated with the artist's work, making followers a more reliable indicator of true interest compared to just the number of listeners. Now, what is fan retention? While fan retention on Spotify refers to how well an artist retains their followers over time, essentially measuring the loyalty and engagement of their fan base. This can be assessed through metrics like the follower to listener ratio, or by analyzing how many followers actively stream new releases. A key aspect of fan retention is the conversion rate from listeners to followers, which indicates how many of an artist's monthly listeners also follow them. A higher follower to listener ratio suggests a more engaged and committed fan base. For instance, artists with high ratios often have established careers and a solid fan base, whereas a lower ratio might indicate a recent surge in popularity, perhaps due to a viral track, but not necessarily a loyal following. To put things into perspective, right? We have A-Reece, who was a seasoned artist who has been pursuing his career independently for quite a few years now. And even though he has a low Spotify monthly listener count, according to critics, with 260,433 listeners, he has 934,547 followers with a fan retention of 358%. Then we have another artist like Usman Mane, who has solidified himself in the industry and is an artist who had a breakout year with 2024 with standout records like Check and Uvalo. He's managed to gain 649,212 monthly listeners with 211,718 followers, which equates to a fan retention of 33%. And this leads to the next factor, where the metric doesn't account for how users interact with music on platforms like Spotify. For instance, seasonal hits or songs that become popular due to trends might spike monthly listeners temporarily without indicating long-term fan base growth. So in conclusion, while monthly listeners on Spotify offer a snapshot of an artist's reach over a recent period. They fail to capture the depth of engagement, loyalty, or the true size of an artist's dedicated fan base. This metric is particularly susceptible to manipulation through playlist placements, algorithmic biases, and short-term popularity spikes from collaborations, which do not necessarily reflect an artist's overall standing or success in the music industry. Therefore, for a comprehensive understanding of an artist's popularity, one should consider additional metrics such as total streams, listener to follower ratios, and engagements on other platforms alongside monthly listeners. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on this. After what's been discussed, do you still hold Spotify's monthly listeners as a good metric in terms of analyzing an artist's career, or do you feel as if it's insignificant? Comment down below.
It is, I wouldn't say it's insignificant because I think it's part of the way things work today. It does factor into something, like when it, with regards to the popularity of an artist and the fandom surrounding that artist. I wouldn't say that it's not important, but I don't think it's the overall thing to base it off, right? It can't be the main bias where we're like, no, only Spotify numbers work. Only Spotify monthly listeners determines an artist's success. Whew, why is that so hard to say? But yeah, I just think that it's one of the key factors or the key indicators as to where an artist is in his career in 2024 and 2025, I guess, moving forward, until they become something else, because at one point it was the Billboard numbers that mattered the most, let's say. Obviously in South Africa we don't have Billboard and whatnot, but it almost feels like in America it's like Spotify numbers is such a huge thing. Oh my God, this is Spotify numbers, what, to a point where it's almost like people don't really talk about Billboard number ones like they used to. Like, honestly, like I remember when having a Billboard number one was like such a thing. Nowadays, I don't even know what songs go number one, bro. I hardly even know, which is crazy to think about it. But I think it's because it pertains mostly more to streaming and what's being streamed rather than what's really popular on the ground. You know what I mean? And yeah, of course, it's a reflection of what's popular on the ground. But I think the internet and real life sometimes have a strange imbalance. Like, people hate somebody on the internet so much, but their music will be doing so well, or vice versa. Or, you know what? People will love somebody on the internet so much, but their music will stream trash. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's hard to indicate with all these bots and all these ways of duping the system or faking the numbers, faking the funk. You know what I mean? So it's hard to really figure out what is the actual. So yeah, you just gotta combine everything, really, bro. You just gotta combine everything and tally up all the numbers from all the metrics, and then I think you'll come to how you'll come to a conclusion as to how to see what an artist's real motion is like. But yeah, guys, this is dewyze on Blaze. I'm gonna stop now because for some reason I can't speak English anymore. I've lost my ability to pronounce words and shit like that. And guys, I know you might think how this guy's wearing the same fit like for 3 days. Nah, it's just that I've been like shirtless for 3 days, to be honest with you. And this has been the only shirt close by. So every time I make a video, I just put this shirt on and I take it off because nudity and that, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to stick to the regulations and all that, you know what I mean? So guys, it's Christmas. Enjoy your Christmas. Have a good one. Me, I'm taking it easy, guys. Me, I've already got a bit too crazy in December. So, man, this is where I call it quits. Like, now, from now on, I'm just chilling. I'm not doing any of this other stuff. Don't invite me to nothing, bro. I'm staying at home, bro. Maybe January. Maybe I'll pop out one day. But hey, hey. Can feel my life.